lose. This is what I came here to do. I walk that wire and I take that step. Won't look down, got no regrets. Won't look down, got no regrets. I was made for this. I was made for this. Born in the wild, formed in the fire, built for the battle. Oh, I was made for this. I was made for this. Mind over matter, silence the doubters. I had the power. Oh, I was made for this.
Welcome everybody to Common Sense with Chief Culp. Happy Tuesday to everyone. I don't know about what happened in your area yesterday, but we lost power for, I don't know, maybe 4 or 5 hours. Had to get the generator running. But I want to thank you guys before I get started. I want to thank you guys for all of your support. You know, not just for the pre-sale orders of my new book, Insubordinate Life, but also in your support of my show's sponsor, MinutemenCoffee.com. Having sponsors helped me to get better equipment for this show, and your support of them will help them to continue to be a sponsor of Common Sense. So if you drink coffee, like I do, what better place to support than someone who supports common sense and freedom, right? Might as well get it from a patriot like Don at Minutemen Coffee. And if you order 2 pounds of American Cop coffee and enter the promo code CULP, C-U-L-P, in capital letters, when you check out, you'll get 15% off of your order from MinutemenCoffee.com. So check them out. It's very good coffee. So, all right, on tonight's show, I'm going to let you know how you can help with the freedom movement in your area. But first, let's talk about the fractured Republican Party. Now, I've talked about this briefly before, but let's go a little bit deeper into this subject because I believe it's very important, and there's a lot of misinformation going on around here. So we need to make that distinction. And I'm having party people contact me asking how we can avoid a circular firing squad with Republicans facing off against other Republicans. How can we come together as a party, right? Ronald Reagan said, you know, he talked about the 11th commandment, right? Not attacking other Republicans. And I generally agree with that. But here's the problem. Not everyone who calls themselves a Republican is a Republican. You can't just wake up one day and say, I'm a tree, and make it so. Likewise, you can't just say, I'm a Republican, and make it so, right? Historically, Republicans have been conservatives. We stand on the hill of conservatism and we plant our flag. To me, a conservative firmly believes in individual freedom and liberty that is enshrined in our founding documents. There are a lot of politicians who, you know, they'll make the claim that they're conservative, but their actions speak differently. Now, I've been a Republican all my life. I was raised in a Republican home. Both my parents were active Republicans when I was growing up. I've been a PCO for the Republican Party on both sides of this state, starting as a young adult back in the 1980s. And I know from experience that people will put an R after their name just to get into office. If someone is running in a more conservative district and they won't win as a Democrat, then they can just put an R after their name, act more conservative than they really are, fool enough voters, and get into office. Words people use mislead us all the time. But actions are an entirely different animal. You can't do things that are not conservative and continue to claim that you're a conservative. I guess you can if people aren't paying attention, right? The phrase actions speak louder than words is very true, and it's a way to find out the real person behind whatever title they want to put on themselves. That's why in my last show I talked about the voting records of a few public servants. If you missed that show, you can find it on my YouTube channel, Chief Loren Culp. Please subscribe, hit the bell. But politicians' actions are on display for everyone to see if we just look. We hear their words, but again, their actions are what's important. Whether it's Congress critters like Butler and Newhouse, who voted to impeach the most popular president of our time with zero evidence, I might add, or the minority leader, J.T. Wilcox, who signed off on the lockdown multiple times, yet received over $3 million in relief funding for his essential business. So I was told by more than one person that Republicans are fractured. Then they asked me, how can we get conservatives united? You know, how can we get Republicans united? And my response is this: conservatives are not fractured. People who call themselves Republicans, but really aren't, might feel that there is fracturing because they were never part of the conservative movement to begin with. They were just riding on the coattails of it, or more specifically, standing on the sidelines, you know, waiting to say things like, oh, see, I told you, you had no shot. Well, it was their self-fulfilling prophecy. Don't lift a finger, because that's the mentality of the Republican Party lately. They're used to losing. Now, that the beginning of them being cast aside for the rhinos that they are is being felt by them. They run around and they start screaming Chicken Little, you know, like Chicken Little, saying that, oh, the Republicans are so fractured. How could we come together and sing Kumbaya? Well, I'll tell you. Conservatives are nowhere near being fractured. That's the point I'm making. The conservative movement, and that includes many Democrats, is alive and well. Yes, I said Democrats. Why would I say a thing like that? Well, I have talked to many Democrats, and I've asked them, how do you feel about your First Amendment rights? How do you feel about your Second Amendment rights? Do you think that the police should be able to crash down your door and come into your home based on what some guy down the street said? Or do you think that the Fourth Amendment to the Constitution should be followed, which requires a warrant signed by an impartial judge? They want the Constitution followed and agree. Our government needs to abide by the Constitution. So a lot of Democrats are leaning towards conservative on a lot of issues. And I've joked about it many times with my Democrat friends that they are just confused conservatives, right? I met so many who love their guns and love their freedoms. The rule of law is not partisan. Everyone is treated equally when the law is applied equally. And who doesn't love that other than socialists? Just look at what happened in Washington State in 2020. Right? We set the record for the most votes for a Republican candidate ever in the history of the state. Many of those votes were from Democrats who had never thought about voting for a Republican in their life. But they switched because they like individual freedom and liberty over tyranny. This happened despite the fact that we got very little help from the Republican Party, despite the fact that the news media discounted my campaign, and despite the fact that the minority leader in the Senate, a Republican named Braun, made fun of everyone that voted for me by saying, "Who's Loren Culp?" during a press conference live on the internet. That was the mindset of the so-called elite, even prior to the election. That's why you didn't see any of them out there, of the elite, of the establishment, of the leadership, right? We had lots of politicians coming out in support of my campaign. But where were the leaders? So-called, right? There are a lot of politicians who are fakers. Yes, this is a family show. I said fakers, all right? The other word might fit too. But there's a lot of politicians that are fakers. There's a lot of politicians who think that once they get into office that they become this elite. You know, once they're voted in, they're a class above everybody else. That's where the word deplorable comes from. That's where insubordinate comes from. By the way, hashtag insubordinate shirts are on my website. That's where the attitude of Senator Braun comes from. That's where signing off on lockdowns and turning right around and receiving millions of dollars because of it, J.T. Wilcox, comes from. That's where so-called conservatives turn on the 45th president and vote for impeachment. It was no longer politically important to them anymore. So they joined the party where they belong and voted with the Democrats. The socialist Democrats. Now, a few people might think that the Republican Party is fractured, but I've got news for them. The people feeling this were not aligned with the people to begin with. They were aligned with their own misguided view on what is happening in our state and in our county. They were aligned with their support. And you know who I'm talking about. All the big money outfits. They're big-time donors. They think they know what's best for us little people. They are the elite, right? That's their attitude. I strongly reject their take on things. We, the people, know what we want, whether we are Republican or Democrat. We love our guns. We love our businesses. We love being free to make our own choices in our lives. And we hate being dictated to no matter what is going on in the world. That's the conservative movement that I'm humbled to be a spokesman for. That's the Republican Party that I grew up in and I represent today. That is the party of we the people, and it is not fractured. Republicans who don't agree with those principles can jump off of this train and join the other party where they probably belong anyway, or get run over in the process. It matters little to me either way. Just like the majority of you watching this tonight, I will not compromise my beliefs in the importance of God, family, country, and the Constitution being followed for anyone. I will not give up my God-given rights to anyone. God gave them to us, not the government. If Joe Biden wants to send some government goon to my house to take away my guns, I will turn everything I have over to them. Starting with one bullet at a time, and I've got lots of bullets. That's the hill that we the people will stand and defend, our constitutional rights. Politicians on the right want to compromise all the time so they can stay in power and reap the financial benefits of their office. Compromise for socialists is never going backwards, but always moving towards socialism. Compromise for so-called conservatives is always losing less than what was expected. We have to change that. We need fighters. We need people in office who will not compromise on the core belief that the Constitution is the rule book for our government and it means what it says. We have to stop compromising our country away. The art of compromise is the slow chipping away of our freedoms, and the socialists use it all the time. And the so-called conservatives give an inch here, a foot there, until one day, in the not too distant future, we aren't going to have a free country. It's very close to that now. People who understand that message are the ones that we need in office as public servants. That understanding, ladies and gentlemen, is what we need more of, and we need it now. If not you, then who, right? Find that who and support them every way you can. If you don't want to run for office, you can still make a huge difference by becoming active in your own county, in your own community. Volunteer for a campaign. Contact your county chairman. Become a PCO. We have to get active. After this quick message, I'm going to explain what a PCO is and what a PCO does. Stay with me. Thank you.
I'm untouchable.
Would you have a message for Loren Culp?
Who's Loren Culp?
Hi, I'm Christopher Gergen, Senior Advisor to the Culp Organization. You know, I spent over a year on the road campaigning with the American Cop, and from those experiences, I thought I really knew Loren Culp. But then, I read Loren's new book, and holy there's so much more to this guy than I could have ever imagined. His new book, An Insubordinate Life, pulls back the curtain and reveals the real-life experiences that shaped the conservative warrior many of you got to know on the campaign trail. The follow-up book to his #1 bestseller, American Cop, hits the market in May 2021. But you can get on the pre-sale list now to get a signed copy of the book before everyone else. To get your copy of An Insubordinate Life, visit chiefculp.com. And while you're there, check out all of Loren's patriotic gear designed specifically for patriots like you. So what are you waiting for? Head over to chiefculp.com to get your copy of An Insubordinate Life today.
All right, welcome back, and thanks for sticking with me. Okay, I've got quite a few messages, questions about what a PCO is and what a PCO does. So let's go over it. Okay, a PCO, well, first of all, PCO stands for Precinct Committee Officer. They make contact with fellow Republicans to make sure their ballots are turned in, make sure people got their ballot, make sure they fill them out. They watch over elections, watch over the counting, make sure that we have free and fair elections. They elect county leaders in the party, and PCOs can change the platform of the party. I remember in 2008 at our county convention, I was a PCO, and myself and a group of other like-minded people got together and completely changed most of the planks in our county party and our county party platform. A PCO helps with campaigns in your area. It helps by educating your neighbors, getting the information out about candidates, and just talking to your local community, your precinct, which is usually a small portion of the county that you live in. Helping with voter registration. It's not hard to be a PCO, and it doesn't, it's not like a full-time job, but it is very important. There's a lot of PCO positions open in the Republican Party, and a PCO is the very root of the grassroots movement, and we need more people to stand up and get involved. Like I said, if not you, then who? If not now, then when? We can't wait. This is the time, and you are the person, so please contact your county chairman. If your PCO position is vacant for where you live, like a lot of them are, the county chair can appoint PCOs. Get involved. At the very least, become a volunteer. Call or email your county chair now. Well, wait till I'm done. So get in contact with them, guys. It's very important. We need PCOs. We need people involved. We have to stand up. So with that, I want to thank you for joining me. Please leave me a comment and share this video with your friends. I'll see you next Tuesday. Thank you, guys. Good night.
I'm untouchable.